So I'm recording this on the 16th of June, and I have no idea when I'm uploading it. So if by the time I upload this, this is like outdated, eat a dick. So this one's going to be a bit different because I'm doing this on a whim. I don't have a script or anything like that. So the footage is just from a speed paint of me redoing this drawing that I did of Chance the Rapper in, I think, 2017, early 2017 or late 2016, because my artistic journey has been a lengthy one, and I found this on my hard drive and I just wanted to redo it. And I also wanted to talk about the new album that's coming out in July, and this recent sort of internet scuffle that Chance got into on Twitter with a couple of fans. So first I just want to comment on the speed painting. Essentially what I used to do when I did like a reference drawing is that I would take some tracing paper. I wouldn't trace over the image, but I would take tracing paper and I would draw the image out on the tracing paper, and then I would either scan it into my computer or I would take a picture of it and then email that to myself, and then draw digitally because I wasn't good at drawing from a reference like in Photoshop yet. I hadn't really gotten that down yet. And as for using tracing paper instead of regular paper, I think it was just because like you can erase easier off of tracing paper. It was easier to sort of make it look like it was perfect. So with this drawing I just adapted and refined the line work digitally, and then I did everything else, which is all hard to explain, so I'm not gonna do it. So first let's talk about this whole eat a dick thing, and I will link sources as always because I never remember exactly what's going on. So essentially a fan tweeted Chance the Rapper and said something like he was no longer a supporter because he didn't like how Chance was developing a sort of ego and how that was being reflected in his new music. And I personally don't know what this guy's talking about as far as the ego being reflected in the music, because really Chance hasn't put out a bunch of new stuff. He put out, you know, those 4 singles, and then he put out the first single from the album, Groceries, and it doesn't sound like he's changed into this sort of egotistic, egocentric person, but everyone's allowed to have their opinion. And then Chance responded to this with some variation of eat a dick, and they sort of went back and forth, and from what I understand maybe 1 or 2 other fans got involved and he told them to eat a dick as well, and this made me laugh very hard, just because I'm just imagining him say that. I think it's funny, but I think that it brings up an interesting conversation when talking about how you give criticism and then how people receive criticism. I think that one of the most important things to nail in is that we don't know the people that we listen to. A lot of the times you can feel like you do because of things that they talk about in interviews or in their music that mirror your own experiences, or the 1 or 2 times that you tweeted them and they replied or something like that. It's very easy for the internet and for art to make you feel like you are connected to another person that you have never met in your life. And you had fans saying, you know, I genuinely care about you and I feel like he has a valid point. Or you had that initial fan saying, oh, I hope something about his daughter, basically saying that he hoped that his daughter, that he didn't teach these whole, you know, eat a dick attitudes to his daughter, which I think is crossing the line. I don't necessarily think you have to bring someone's kids into it to validate your argument, and even when you know the person, let alone when this is a person that you literally have never met in your life. And I think that people allow the way that they give criticism, they allow it to be much harsher over the internet, because there's just, of course, there's anonymity, but also there's a sort of way that the internet has of breaking down barriers that makes you feel like you know the people that you're talking to, when really they don't know you from Adam. And Chance said that I think a couple of times. He said, you know, I did know you existed, and if I needed your advice, I would have called you had I known you existed, which sounds a little bit harsh. But once again, just imagining him saying these things, and his little voice is funny. And I also think that a lot of the times we forget that art is very intimate. No matter what kind of art it is, visual art, music, writing, it's all very intimate, soul-wrenching sort of experience for a lot of people. Not necessarily for people who don't care about their art, which we have a lot of artists and entertainers and performers nowadays who don't care and are doing it for the paycheck. But for people who do care and who do talk about sensitive things, or who spend all of this time on a project or a track, art is very intimate, and it's just releasing it and allowing other people to consume it makes them vulnerable. And I think with that being said, you have to be careful about the way that you give criticism to other people. Just sort of saying, you know, you're egocentric now and it's reflecting in your music. How is that constructive criticism when you don't know for a fact that he's egocentric? I'm just a little confused about that. And I also think that, you know, I don't think that constructive criticism has to be, you know, delivered in a cookie cutter way, not necessarily, you know, but I do think that people have to be mindful of the way that they give criticism to people, especially those people that they don't know. I will say that Chance had another valid point in saying that he never asked these people to support him. He never called them up and asked them to listen to his music and to become his fans. I'm pretty sure he said some variation of that. And I agree with that. You decide who you want to support. There are people whose music that I listen to who I don't necessarily support. Maybe I stream the single on Spotify, but that's as far as my quote-unquote support goes. I don't buy tickets to their concerts. I don't follow them anywhere. I don't watch their interviews, nothing like that, because I'm choosing not to support them for whatever reason. But for the people that I choose to support, I choose to attend concerts, I choose to buy albums and singles and whatever. That was a choice that I made. Sorry if you hear my nails. But I will still say, just sort of saying, eat a dick over and over again was a little bit rude and pretty childish. So I definitely see both sides of the conflict, and I understand both sides, or at least I think I do. I'm interested to see how it will sort of settle as the days go on. So let's get into the album expectations. I'm really excited for this body of work. I am the kind of person that I will listen to the same album from a person despite their new releases. So for example, I went to a Joey Badass concert in 2018. Prior to that concert, I had been listening to 1999 and that was it. So I had been listening to 1999 since 2015 or 2016. And that was it. I knew about Before the Money when it dropped. I knew about All American Badass. I knew about Summer Nights, all of that. And I've been listening to Peep the Apocalypse too. But that was it. That was the primary Joey album that I was listening to until I went to the concert, until I was going to the concert, because then I felt like I was sort of entitled. I didn't want to be a fake fan. But that's the kind of person I am. So I did the same thing with Chance the Rapper. I listened to acid rap, sometimes 10 Day, but mostly acid rap, even after I knew that Coloring Book had dropped, even after I knew that that tape he did with Jeremiah had dropped. I don't remember what it's called right now. I just listened to them one. So I'm a person that gets very satisfied with one album. And so I'm interested to see what this next album will look like and if it will satisfy me in the same ways that Acid Rap did, Coloring Book did as well. I'm really wondering who the features are going to be. That's usually what I'm most excited for, especially with an artist like Chance, who works with so many features that are close to home. I'm wondering if, because he's a little bit bigger now, is he going to branch out more? I really hope that No Name and Saba are on this album. I love No Name and Saba, and I think that they make great music with Chance. And you know, Chance hasn't been on a No Name project yet, but No Name is usually on a Chance project, so I'm curious. I really hope so. I'm curious to see what the Christian influences on this album will look like. Coloring Book had a lot of not Christian rap, but a lot of Christian themes, a lot of Christian inspiration. You know, Kirk Franklin was on the album, for goodness sakes. How great. The first whole 2 minutes of the song is a gospel song. And I really liked that. Those are some of my favorite tracks from that album. But I'm just curious to see how, like, what it'll look like this time. And I'm wondering if how the Christian themes and the other themes that he presents on this album are going to blend together. That was probably my biggest reservation about Coloring Book, was that you know, Christians don't just, you know, attend church. Of course, they do all kinds of other things. They go to clubs, they, you know, smoke weed, they do all these things. But to me, it just felt like there was a sort of disconnect between the tracks with more Christian themes and those without them. But that was just me. I'm really excited to see if there's going to be any sort of humanitarianism or philanthropy with the release of the album, similar to what he did with Groceries. So he, you know, gave, I think, was it 10 people? I'm not sure. I will put my sources down. I think he gave about 10 people free groceries for a year through a video competition he did on Instagram. So I'm curious to see if that's a theme that's going to follow along with more singles that are released or with the album release. I think that would be cool, and that's really interesting, and you know, it's a good way to give back and to promote the album. Two birds, one stone kind of thing. One thing that I feel like we haven't really seen with Chance thus far is adventurous music videos, and I'll explain what I mean by that. I think the most adventurous one we got was Angels with Saba, and you know, it sort of had a storyline. The little boy with the halo walking through the city of Chicago, and they, you know, took the red line and all of that. But aside from that, it was just sort of a lot of dancing, and you know, and that's fine, that's great. It's a dancing song, it's great. But I'm just curious to see if there are going to be any videos with an actual storyline, or any sort of experimental sorts of videos, anything like that. If not, I think that's fine, honestly, because I don't necessarily think Chance thus far has made the kind of music that would yield that sort of visual. But there's always, you know, room for growth and room for experimentation. So I'm curious to see if any of that will occur. I think Chance has always been really good at making a nice, solid rap ballad. So I'm excited to see if there are going to be any of those on this album and what they are going to be about and what they're going to sound like. And I'm also wondering if there's going to be any sort of social commentary on this album, and if it will be specific to the Chicago area or if it will be about America, because, you know, as we know, lots of Black artists have been putting out songs about, you know, gentrification, police violence, Donald Trump, because these issues are just so prevalent, so relevant to us at this time. And Chance is no stranger to presenting a social commentary within his work. However, I don't necessarily think that he's released anything that would comment on the nation as a whole, aside from that unreleased track he did on Colbert. But that one had a sort of spectrum of things that it was doing. It commented on his personal life, commented on religion, commented on LGBTQ plus rights, all kinds of things. So I'm just curious to see if there will be any sort of social commentary at all. I'm also curious to see if he's ever going to release that damn track. That would be so great, because I love that song, and there was never a full actual release of it. So I mean, only time will tell. The album drops in July. He didn't say when in July. I'm hoping toward the beginning, so that we'll still have it, all summer long. But we'll just have to wait and see. As per usual, all the sauces will be in the description box.